Hey guys, I'm experimenting a bit with text-to-speech, so pardon the delays. The following story is about a boy named Danny Parker, a scumbag who has been discussed over the last 8 years for what he did to his pet. When I call him boy, I'm referring to his mindset as a man, meaning that he isn't one. He was raised with white privilege, everything he broke would be replaced the next day or weekend, so he didn't learn much about consequences. To this day, he blames everything on anger issues, including why he never took responsibility for his mistakes. I believe he currently lives somewhere in Nebraska, but his Facebook profile seems to have been hidden, so we're not sure where he lives. We do know that most of his family lives in Anaheim, California, but let's move on with his story. Let's go back to day 1, when his father brought home a pet. It was a dog similar to the one pictured here. This would be his dog that stuck with his family through thick and thin, a loyal pet he had since high school, until he reached an early demise. This was his dog named Cody, who stuck by his side. From the research we found, he often fed his dog regular food that people ate. His father told him not to feed the dog regular food, but that only made him do it more. He's part of the people like Ed Gein, Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, who never listened to logic and did things that they felt was natural. So when his dog's life was on the line, it was no surprise that he didn't have remorse for his dog's death. The dog took a few months to be house trained, and the smell of his dog was bad, but eventually his father would give his dog a bath. Nobody hung around Danny when he had his dog, only other people who had dogs could tolerate the smell. Most of the time his father questioned why the dog required being dewormed so often, and this goes back to the idea of him eating people food. Danny's father caught him feeding the dog people food and yelled at him for doing it, but that didn't stop Danny from doing it more. Everything he ate including fast food, you could see him feeding part of it to his dog, and he claimed his dog liked the food, therefore liked him the most. You can claim it was him being a child or him wanting the attention of his dog, but it's just Danny being a terrible dog owner. Danny's dog was still only a month-old puppy, but after the first month his dog began to explore the area. It was also when his dog ate actual shit, which is called coprophagia, that he commonly found when being walked. His dog continued to eat shit for the next 5 years, but it only explained why his father had such a tough time raising the dog and paying the vet bills. His father did his best to have the dog trained, but more than often the dog would just continue making mistakes. This was also around the time people noticed that Danny enjoyed when his dog licked his face, but that could be a coincidence. Most of these mistakes were Danny's fault because a dog is unable to eat people food unless a human feeds it to them. It also includes his childish behavior. He would break video game controllers often, and his dog began to chew on the video game cords. Walking his dog was always trouble, most of the time he would run. It was common to see his family chasing the dog around, being untrained he would run from them in the middle of the street, which was the only luck he had. Later on Danny was constantly being evicted, but he was never homeless. For several years he would have his address changed, but he went to the same high school, and people who visited him saw his dog. There was a story that his dog was being taken care of, they paid someone money to keep him in their yard, but he ran away. When they found him, he was skinny, so that seems accurate enough that his dog used its instincts to find his family. Years went by, and Danny never graduated high school. Most of his peers laughed, and some of them saw him working at McDonald's, but his story continues. It was around the time his dog stopped eating shit, but around the time Danny was known to smoke marijuana all the time. His dog hated marijuana. Danny was putting a blanket over his dog's head when he would smoke marijuana, and the dog often cowered in the corner of the house wincing. Danny claimed the dog liked being high, but nobody agreed with him. The only problem was, he was the owner of the dog, so nobody could prevent it. Years of him torturing his dog with second-hand marijuana wasn't his demise. The thing that killed him was when Danny chose marijuana and drinking over him. This killed his dog. Instead of buying a bag of food or feeding him people food, he decided his best option was to tie him to the door of an animal shelter. Regardless of what Danny claims, he tied his dog to a kill shelter. Upon further investigation, all of the shelters in his area were kill shelters, where they only kept the dog for a week until they were killed. We heard he was getting drunk at bars and bragging about being high while on PlayStation and Xbox One. He was busy being a loser instead of being responsible. This was when he lived in Huntington Beach, California. He was house sitting for someone who set money aside for his dog to eat, which was the same breed as Danny's dog Cody. The same idiot who fed his dog people food, tied his dog to the door and walked away while his dog barked and howled at him in terror, knowing that all the animals go in and never come out alive. That, I'm afraid, is where our story ends. So to all dog owners, please don't repeat his mistake. If you have a dog, make sure you're responsible and take care of your pets. The last thing you should ever do is pick getting drunk at bars and smoking marijuana over your family, but it's what Danny did. So please, don't be a Danny Parker. Thanks for watching guys, sorry for the excuses of not releasing a new video. Just be aware that I'm still around, the last fault was my computer died and I lost a video I was working on, but that's my fault. I take full responsibility, which is why I released this video when I got a new computer and I will release a new video each month. Take care and feel free to leave comments.